The shadow boxing of the group stages of the Copa America is well and truly over. We're into the quarterfinal stage, and a guy that's really excited to be here this morning. It's an insane time in the morning in British Columbia for you, Adam Chernoff, but you're up early because you're that much looking forward to the quarterfinals of the Copa America.
Yeah, I was up early yesterday. I'm ready to go. I wish these matches were a little bit sooner, but we've got a couple days to wait. So hopefully this video will get everyone set up in due time for the matches coming up on Friday and Saturday.
Absolutely. And not only we have the video, we're also available now to download on the Matchbook Betting podcast at your preferred podcast app. Mark O'Hare, back from Royal Ascot. You left us on our own last Friday to go hang out with the Queen. How was it for you?
Yeah, it's very good, thanks. I know you held the ship very well in my absence. But yeah, very much looking forward to the quarterfinals now. It's a very forgiving competition, the Copa America. We've only lost 4 teams, but the 8 who are here to stay. We've got 4 great ties ahead of us, so hopefully find a few winners as well.
Absolutely. Let's start with the first quarterfinal from Porto Alegre. Brazil against Paraguay. No surprises. Brazil here at a ridiculously short price of 1.19, 22.0 Paraguay. 8.2 is the draw. Brazil are 2-goal, flat 2 favourite on the Asian handicap, and the total is 2.75. 5-0 win over Peru for Brazil. Adam Chernoff, are the Brazilians well and truly back?
Well, what a difference right starting 11 makes. Once that lineup came up on the weekend, the market certainly adjusted very quickly. I think the big note was Everton starting up front for Brazil. Through the group stages, he's had 11 dribbles in the final third, which is 1 less than Messi. The big kicker in this one is that he's played 103 minutes less than Messi has. So he makes an enormous difference for Brazil up front. Arthur really shored up the midfield, and that team looked like we sort of expected them to, coming in as the even money favorites to win the tournament before this whole thing got going. Awfully big price, as you mentioned. I had this one personally priced right around 86%, which is about 1.16, which is pretty well right on where the market is. You can probably find maybe a little higher number on Matchbook with Paraguay, but it's really interesting to see Paraguay sort of backed in because Ecuador and Japan decided that it was the best strategy to eliminate themselves in that match, playing to a 1-1 draw. So it allowed Paraguay to sneak in on this one. Really, my thing with Paraguay the whole tournament has been this could be a team that could press forward and have success. They probably could have won that Argentina match. They most certainly should have won against Qatar, but they just decide to sit back and play very traditionally. And Berizzo can't get them to play the way that he wants to do, which is certainly concerning. And I think that narrative holds true to this match as well. Brazil's certainly going to press them back. And if Brazil can get wide, this is going to get ugly in a hurry. But ultimately, Paraguay is going to be limited with their slow attackers up front. Cardozo and Santander just can't push any defense back in the center just because they're so slow, and they rely on Almiron behind them. He's got a ton of speed, but he tends to outrun his team. We've seen it a couple times. The one goal where he ran about 55 yards down the pitch, he was waiting for guys to catch up. They ended up doing it, but he almost ran out of space at the end, and that was sort of the one play that stands out for Paraguay. Paraguay has had success against Brazil in Copa America. They've played up to their competition. This is a nice sort of spot for them where they can play to that sort of underdog mentality that the team, for whatever reason, seems to thrive on. You have to remember that there is no extra time in these matches in the quarterfinals. They go straight to a penalty shootout. So if Paraguay can hold on and sort of play that compact style, it's almost a better chance for them to win this one in penalties than it is for them to win it in full time. So this is a kind of an interesting dynamic you have to handicap into all of these matches, where you might just get the team hanging on to take the roulette chance at penalties rather than push forward to win the match in full time. So I think that's certainly the strategy that Paraguay is going to employ. The first 3 matches haven't led me to suspect anything different. Maybe we're seeing just a little bit of overreaction to Brazil coming off the 5-0 win against Peru.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam touched on it there, Mark, about Paraguay backing in. I mean, that's an understatement. They've only had 2 points in the group stages with 2 draws. I mean, it is an incredibly fascinating dynamic, Mark. We're so used to teams getting to extra time. Then there's another 30 minutes. A lot can go wrong in a half an hour of football. But Adam touched on it there, that dynamic of going straight to penalties. And all of a sudden, while it may not be totally a 50-50 chance, there's probably at least a 40% chance there for Paraguay.
Yeah, I mean, they got 2 points, which is the worst tally of a quarterfinalist in the Copa America since 1993. That was Mexico. Incidentally, Mexico reached the final that year, so it can be done. Paraguay got previous as well in 2011. They got to the final without winning a match in the whole competition. Doing the business on penalties, and I'm not sure if we discussed it. I think we did in the pre-tournament pieces as well. We looked and talked about the surprise semi-finalists in previous years. I think in 2011 you had Paraguay, Peru, Venezuela, and since 1993, if you look at the semi-finalists, only 19 of the 40 were featured in the top 4 of the betting at the start of the tournament. So there definitely is a trend there for outsiders such as Paraguay. As Adam says, the prices are fair enough on Brazil here. They've lost one competitive game at home since 1975, which was that World Cup game against Germany 5 summers ago. Their record under Chichi, 31 wins, 6 draws, 2 defeats, just 10 goals against, which is remarkable, really, considering they've played nearly 60 hours of football. And they haven't looked like conceding at this Copa America either. They've given up 0.83 expected goals, just the one big chance, only 8 shots from inside their own penalty area. And they've had more shots, more possession, more efforts from inside the penalty box, a higher XG than anyone else yet in the competition too. But just going back to your first question there to Adam about are they back? I still have a couple of doubts, niggling doubts. They're fair favourites to go outside and win the whole competition. That's absolutely fine. And I'm absolutely fine with them being around even money too. But Peru gifted them those first 2 goals in that game, and we've seen with Brazil, if they score early, they get their noses in front, they're confident, the crowd are behind them, they're serious danger. If they are frustrated for half an hour, they get twitchy, they feel the weight of expectation, the pressure from the supporters and the media, and they're vulnerable too. So I'm not, running out back in Brazil thinking they're absolutely fantastic still. They still have their issues, and especially coming into this game too, because Casemiro, their defensive midfielder, is suspended. They've never lost a game when he's been playing on the field. Fernandinho, his natural replacement, isn't fully fit with a knee problem. He should play, but he's not going to be 100% either. And there's this conundrum about how their midfield balance is going to play out. It was the issue against Belgium when they lost in the World Cup 12 months ago. It could be an issue again. Gabriel Jesus of Man City hasn't scored, missed a penalty in the last game as well. Didn't score at the World Cup last year either, so there's a question mark over his temperament coming into this game. The Porto Alegre pitch has been poor as well, so not ideal if you're a passing team. And Paraguay have got previous at Brazil. They're one of the few teams who've got a decent record against them in this century. Not them out of 2 Copa Americas in recent years on penalties. They've only won 1 Copa America game in 18. Yet they've made the final in 2011, semi-finals in 2015. Knocked out Brazil on penalties on both occasions. And as Adam says, they're trying to sort of play this more aesthetically pleasing style, but they've reverted to type really, because Brito just hasn't had enough time to build this new Paraguayan team. He's kind of a disciple of Sampioli and Bielsa really in how he likes to play his football, but I just can't see anything else but them defending deep and relying on their physicality to try and get them out of holes here, because if they do try and play this sort of attacking football, it's going to be suicidal. They have got players up front who can cause a couple of problems. They haven't got enough mobility really outside of Gonzalez and Almiron, so I think they're going to sit down, lock down, and try and get out this 0-0. And I think that's a potential there for a bet really, because you look at the Asian handicap line of 2. I'd take it a step further and take Paraguay plus 2.25, around 1.75ish. It might be getting nipped in a little bit cheaper from now. Their record since May 2016 is terrible, just 6 wins, 5 draws, 18 defeats. Their only clean sheet in 13 was against Guatemala. But none of their last 11 games have been lost by 2 or more goals. Brazil recently have been just quietly efficient really without Neymar. They've seen under 3.5 goals in 12 of their last 13, under 3.5 goals in 14 of their last 19 wins. Just a clean sheet machine. Don't often lose to CONMEBOL teams outside the top 20 in FIFA. Don't often score too many goals either. Look at their records since the start of 2018. They've only scored more than 3 goals against El Salvador, Honduras, and Peru. So really, if I'm having an absolute bank on this game, it's Brazil to win to 0. But for this podcast and this video, I think Paraguay plus 2.25 is a decent touch. Really, I don't expect them to get thrashed out of the park like Peru did.
Yeah, and that's actually been backed as we speak currently at 1.73, but a small bit of margin in that market, so you may get the 1.75. Mark, I'm going to stay here with you for this one because Argentina have seemed to be kind of a pretty hot topic of conversation in this tournament. They got through Qatar, a bit of a workmanlike performance. They now take on Venezuela. And let's have a quick look at the betting. And we'll get to a couple of questions from the audience as well, from the We Love Betting audience. First of all, Venezuela is 7.1. This to me seems like worth a bet for 10, 20 quid at least. 1.58 Argentina, 3.92 is the draw. Venezuela getting a flat goal start on the Asian handicap at 1.92. 2.25 is the total, slightly favouring the over. Mark, like I said, Argentina workmanlike against Qatar, got it done. Can they kick on from here? And more importantly, Venezuela have been exceptionally impressive, especially defensively in this tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Delighted to see Venezuela in the quarterfinals. That win against Bolivia extended their unbeaten streak to 7, which is the longest in their history. Which is curious, really, because they haven't actually been that impressive to me in this competition. I expected a little bit more. They've survived 5 goals via VAR conceded in the games against Peru and Brazil. But they are a progressive footballing country, which is remarkable, really, considering the social and political problems affecting the country. But especially for a country where baseball and beauty contests are favoured more over football, really. But they've invested in the youth football infrastructure, and it's bearing fruit. They were runners-up in the Under-20 World Cup 2 years ago to England. 6 of that squad have made it through to the seniors for this Copa America. The head coach, Rafael Dudamel, was there with the Under-20 team. He's been in charge of the seniors now for a few years too. So there's continuity, there's consistency, and they believe in themselves. I think they've got a great attacking threat with the power of Rondon up front. They've got pace on the flanks as well, and the defence has improved immeasurably too. So Farron is the goalkeeper that Adam runs and raves about a lot. He's the best young keeper on the planet, really. He's behind a defence where Mikel Villanueva has moved from left back to centre back. An inspired move, really, because they've lacked a bit of pace and defence, and their centre back partner Osorio was man of the match against Brazil too. They're not going to fear Argentina at all. They beat them in a friendly in Madrid in March 3-1, a game which Messi played. It's not an exaggeration to say Venezuela blew Argentina away in that game. I know it was a friendly, but their inability to sort of defend against the power of Rondon and the pace of Murillo, Machis and Martinez out wide was quite striking, really. I watched those highlights back again yesterday. It was a well-deserved win. Now, Argentina's issues have long been the same issues, really. A lack of defensive speed and mobility and quality at the back. That's an area they're going to be really concerned about. They've been going backwards at a rate since the 2014 World Cup, mainly due to the sort of inefficiencies in defence and the cohesion in midfield and attack. They were pretty fortunate to play Qatar last up. Qatar playing their worst game of the competition. Argentina probably their best. It's not really something to celebrate, really, because there's just a constant shift in systems and formations since Scaloni took charge. Before the Qatar game, he'd taken charge of 11 games of Argentina, used 11 formations, 52 players, started 40 different players, and made 66 changes between matches. He's already started 16 players at this competition, so how he can get any sort of cohesion with that sort of setup, I don't know. And also the system doesn't work, really. He changed it to a 3 centre-back system against Venezuela to try and incorporate Messi. They got attack down the flanks. I'd be surprised if he went back to that. Certainly what he's got right now with Aguero and Martinez leading the line works with Messi operating in a free role, but they're left a little bit cold in midfield, with just a 3-man midfield, exposing that back line a little bit more. I haven't got a specialist defensive midfielder either, so I'm really fascinated to see what Scaloni goes with in this game, because I think they definitely are vulnerable in this match. They're not creating stack loads of chances, but they're not conceding too many either. So it could be a penalty shootout, this one. Venezuela's numbers aren't too fantastic. No team have faced more shots in the box or had less ball, but Brazil dominate their stats in this Copa America, so it's hard to read too much into that. But their results and their records since 2017, 6 wins, 11 draws, 4 defeats. Now 5 of those 6 wins came in the last 11 games. They've scored in 10 of the last 12 and conceded fewer than 2 in 10 of the last 11 as well. So I very much like the look of Venezuela plus on the handicap. For all Argentina's might, which we have to say they've got so much firepower in that squad. They've only won half of the last 20. Venezuela have lost 1 of the last 11, and head to head, Argentina haven't beaten them in 3 games. So there is precedent, and Venezuela do believe in themselves. So yeah, I definitely want Venezuela on the handicap here. If I'm being cheeky, I'd take the 1.25, but I think the +1 is probably the way to go.
Yeah, +1 seems plenty here. What I love about you, Marco, here is the fact that you watch back a friendly from March in Spain. I love that. And this is why we have you on, because you do the hard work so we don't have to. Adam Chernoff, let's talk about, you've got to be with us here with Venezuela, surely. I mean, look, they just seem to me, from just kind of my kind of expert eye, they seem to just match up really well against that Scaloni side there.
This is one of my favorite quotes from the tournament so far, and there have been some great ones. When Argentina have the ball anywhere in the final third, you fear for Qatar. When Qatar have the ball anywhere on the pitch, you fear for Argentina. That was from a pretty prominent guy who covers Argentina full time, and it really sums up the situation of this team. And last week, Venezuela treated us really well, and anyone who watched the video was able to cash in on them with us. But certainly going back to them again, this defense for Argentina is a serious problem, and Scaloni does not have the pieces to fix it. And we broke down the 2-2-6 formation that they played in last week. They sort of remedied that a little bit to like a 2-8-2 of sorts. The shape just wasn't there again, and it just looks like a team without a manager, and it really is when you look at Scaloni and his credentials. But what was a little bit apparent to me in the Qatar match was Messi's really not comfortable playing with 2 number 9s, and even though it benefited the team, he sort of looked disinterested and frustrated to a point. I don't know if that was with the setup that Argentina took to the pitch against Qatar, or if there's something more going on from the locker room. I wouldn't doubt if that's the case, but it looked uncomfortable for him. But I believe Mark was in the first video brought up how when the team plays for Messi, it's a problem, but when they play with him, they do a lot better. And that was sort of the case. But in order to play with them, you're going to have to do something that upsets him. So it's a matter of, will Scaloni do something in midfield, and maybe put in Acuna again like he did in the second half last match.
But Adam, sorry for coming across you, but would it really upset him if he put in Dybala? Because Dybala looked great when he came on the last night.
It's certainly something they can put in, but the body language that he was putting forth later in that match was somewhat concerning. But it's all about how much of a risk Scaloni is willing to take to sort of suppress Messi into a lighter role, which I think would benefit him if he's willing to come around to that. But I just don't know if he's willing to take that jump, especially after how the group stages went. I really think that it's Martinez and Aguero up front. That's the best look. And if Argentina can just really get busy with their attack, that's honestly their best defense, because this back line is a humongous problem. Venezuela, I was watching them against Bolivia, and sort of around the 45-50 minute mark, I was like, well, let's just wait until the second Venezuela comes in. And what I mean by that is Dudamel, he doesn't really want to put forth everyone that he has talent-wise in the opening 11. What he's sort of been doing is Rondon, Machis, and Rincon start up front. And this is sort of a long ball, more physical style of play that plays very well against a lot of opponents. And then in like the 70th minute, he makes the switch with Joseph Martinez and Soteldo, who are these super creative, very fast playing, possession, skill-based players. And it's really hard to defend for opponents. You have this one very distinct style to start, and then late in the match when fatigue is starting to set in, Dudamel flips the switch, and all of a sudden you're hit with speed and skill, and it's really hard to defend. And by the end of the match, Bolivia looked dead and disinterested. And that third goal that Martinez and Soteldo set up, they were just walking around the back line. And I know that's Venezuela, but you look at Argentina, a team without shape, that lacks discipline, that lacks any confidence from their manager. I think Dudamel can actually sort of outmanage, well, it's not hard to outmanage Scaloni, but he can outmanage the talent on Argentina, which is very difficult to do. He certainly has the pieces to do that. And even though there hasn't been a lot of consistency on the back line, there's been some switches, there's been a lot of great individual performance, whether it's from Mago post red card, Villanueva in a couple matches, Rosales or Hernandez. He's had some standout players that have done well. So I think if he can get another one or two of those good individual performances from the back line to sort of taper that attack when Argentina does manage to push the ball up, Venezuela certainly have the chance to take this one to penalties. They may threaten the outright. I think that's maybe a little bit long, but I certainly like them a lot on the handicap here, in agreement with you two.
Yeah, and of course, like Venezuela conceded, what are we looking at here? 1 goal in the group stages. They obviously held Brazil to 0-0 as well. And it's hard to make case that this Brazilian team is better than this Argentinian team right now. Quickly, guys, before I move off that one, Mark, I know we have a few questions in from We Love Better guys. So I think David got in touch with your guys there, Mark. Doesn't Argentina -1 at 2.0 represent good value over the stroke against Venezuela? Mark, I think we answered that one. I think we're for Venezuela very much +1 here.
Yeah, for sure. I find it hard to make a case for Argentina on the handicap. I went with them against Paraguay foolishly, and feeling that was their opportunity to sort of release the shackles and cut loose. It didn't happen. It's not happened throughout this competition. It's not happened for 18, 24 months now. So I find it hard to believe they're going to have much joy against an opposition team who have been a tough opponent for them in recent times.
Yeah, and also one question in here from Lucas Cash Beast. Always love this guy's username. Venezuela are a big price in the exchange outright and the tournament format. They're 66.0. I know that they get through this more than likely. They're playing Brazil, obviously, but in a cup competition, guys, I mean, if you're looking for a flyer, it might be the one, but obviously a lot to get over here. And I think we're all in agreement here, guys, that potentially the Argentinian chickens could come home to roost on Friday night in the Maracanã. Right, let's move on to a game that I'm kind of looking at this, gents. It kind of looks like the game of the weekend for me. Colombia against Chile. Let's take a look at the betting. 2.32. Colombia, exceptionally impressive in this tournament so far. 3.84 is Chile. 3.14 is the draw. Chile getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap at 2.02. And the total is 2. 0 goals conceded from Colombia, Adam Chernoff, in this tournament so far. Carlos Queiroz effect, it's been pretty much evident. I mean, I love the fact that he's only, I think it was Cuadrado's the only guy who's actually played all 3 games so far. You've got to be really impressed by Colombia so far.
Yeah, and it's a very different Colombia side for me anyway, since really getting involved with the team back in 2011, 2012. But they're playing this very high pressing style with 4 guys up, and they're able to just dominate the attacking third. And so much of what they're doing is happening so deep in the opponent's defensive zone. I'm almost a little bit concerned about what Queiroz did in the match against Paraguay. It was subbing out 10 guys to start and then sort of manipulating the lineup a little bit as we went.
But they won. They won, Adam.
I know they won, but they had such a good thing going from his debut in the first match and the second match, and everything was really clicking for them. And then to sort of pull everything out like that in the final match, even though they did get the win, I mean, it just, for me, it raised a lot of questions. Cardona, as good as he looked, there were some questions there, but then you sort of undermined Wilmar Barrios to an extent with sort of the defensive lineup that he went up, and I think Barrios has been the best player in the tournament for any team so far. And then now to come back against Chile, who's playing very dynamically, and I'll get into that in a second, but there's going to have to be an adjustment. So I don't know if the rest was justified with so many days off in between these matches. The big thing for Colombia here is Ospina flew back to Medellin previous to the Paraguay match. He spent some time with his father. He's since flown back to Sao Paulo. He got back with the team yesterday, so he's going to be with the team for this match, which is a big boost for them in goal. So that's going to be a big one to get back, where the rest was probably deserving. How he's motivated, maybe that the team rallies around him just a little bit, but that's a big thing for Colombia to get him back in goal. But going up against Chile, I wish they would have kept pressing forward with that lineup that they had in the first 2 matches. I really think getting Falcao out, moving Duvan Zapata in, it was really taking this team to a new shape and a new form, and I really liked what I saw. From Chile, I know there's market appetite to back them, but I can't help but wonder if Rueda blew his good plan a match too early. What I mean by that is you have to remember that this is a Colombian coach who's coached in Colombia for most of his career. There's a ton of familiarity, and he made a very drastic tactical change in the Uruguay match in the first 20 minutes. And he went to a 3-5-2 with a 3-5-2 with 3 men on the back line. Then he put Isla, Vidal, and Fuenzalida on the bench. And Uruguay didn't know what to do for the first 20 minutes of the match. He caught them completely flat-footed. Chile was playing this dynamic wing style of play, and they were really pushing Uruguay back. And it took Uruguay about 20 to 25 minutes to figure it out, and then they were able to sort of switch it, slow down the game, and they ended up getting the goal late in the match. But he can't really pull that out now. And I think there was sort of the analysis on him is easy to find for the Colombia team. They know what he's going to come out with. And that was sort of the surprise that nobody saw coming. And I think in that match, if he would have left that for this, he could have put Colombia on their back foot to start. But I don't think that's going to be the case coming into this match, where Colombia can control it from the start. They can get high in the attacking third, and they can hold Chile back. Chile's been playing with very high fullbacks. If Colombia can suppress that, then these two teams are certainly going to play into each other. And I think that we're going to see a really low scoring, tight, competitive match for 90 minutes, where late in the match, when it is tight, it's more beneficial for both of these sides to go to penalties. I think both have the advantage. And I really think that there's some value backing the draw on this one, if not the under as well.
Just quickly before I come to you, Mark, Adam, I'll stay with you for a second. Why would Rueda have done that? He's essentially showing his cards when the other two teams in the group were probably, beatable anyway. It wasn't a must-win game, that one.
Yeah, and that's really my question, and whether it was to get a win over Uruguay or whatever it may have been. I mean, I didn't see why he had to do that, which is why I was so surprised that he went forward and pushed that through, really showing another side to this team. It was pretty extreme when we kept on the bench, and now he has to make a decision, but he's making a decision into the federation and the management staff that tends to know him best. So it's just, for me, it was really strange timing for him to do that. And I don't know what he's going to do to get creative in this match against Colombia.
All right, Mark O'Hare, I'll come to you. Let's just stay on Chile for a second. I think we talked about this pre-tournament, that there were probably, we sensed there were going to be team in transition, but from what we've seen so far, it still seems to be kind of the older dogs like Alexis Sanchez, Vidal, and these guys that are carrying them through. What are your thoughts here? Like, Colombia have been exceptionally impressive, but is there enough in Chile that you could make a case for them as the underdog here?
Not really for me. I've been looking to oppose them throughout the competition, as we've had few options to do that, really. But I think this is potentially the time to do it. Rueda, the head coach, is under constant pressure for results back home, unable to sort of breed this new crop of players. There isn't a crop of players coming through, in fairness. So he's relying on these old heads to get them through. But they've lost that kind of effervescent manner that we've become known with Chile under Sampaoli and Bielsa. They've had to adapt. He's been a little bit more cautious. He did try the 3 at the back system in March's friendlies. Didn't expect him to put it out against Uruguay, but I guess he just wanted to win the group. Saying that, Uruguay are at full strength in that game, and as Adam mentioned, he rested, I guess, Isla, Beausejour, and Vidal, who were all on yellow cards in that game. So, it was peculiar for him to do it in that match, and to do it in such a way where he was almost fielding a first team by the players on yellows. But Sanchez has been lively in the hole, which is a positive. They've found space out wide as well, which is all what Chile is about, playing down the flanks. The 3 at the back system allows them to do that. It gives them a bit more protection at the back, because they haven't got the mobility out wide and the wing backs now to cover the ground like they did in the old days. But I expect probably a similar approach for this against Colombia as well, who aren't really renowned for their width. So Chile do defend a bit deeper these days. They're a little bit taller than they have been in a few years too. They've lost a little bit of verve on the ball, but Aranguiz is still a fantastic player to have in the middle of the park. He'll play a key role, really, pinging the ball out left and right. But I think their opening 2 games against Japan and Ecuador were largely quite flattering results-wise. I do expect them to be found out sooner than later. They've got a great record for scoring goals. In fact, scored 11 of the last 14, scored at least twice in half of those as well. But Colombia are a team built from a solid base. If you look at their last 18 wins, 14 of them have been alongside a clean sheet too. And Chile just can't keep clean sheets under Rueda, just 5 and 16 since he took charge. They reached the quarterfinals with the lowest expected goals figure, the joint fewest big chances created too. So there are certainly issues there for Chile. Regarding Colombia, in fact, from betting heat, this is obviously the tightest quarterfinal tie, which I think is clearly fair enough. But for me, there's a preference to be with Colombia. I'm making around 2.1-ish. I think you can get 2.3 at the moment. They were pretty composed, pretty consistent, clinical in their win against Argentina. Didn't really do enough against Qatar. Made those changes against Paraguay when the group was already won. Cuadrado kept his place in that game. Zapata seems to have taken over the league #9 role ahead of Falcao, which is great for Colombian backers. It really caused this Chilean team plenty of headaches. James has been enjoying his football too. They're in a good place, and I think the squad is excellent actually. And I think it's probably something I underestimated coming into this competition. I think it's no exaggeration to say the second string of Colombia could or should be probably sixth favourites in the competition. They're a strong squad. Their form since the World Cup: 8 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat. They kept clean sheets in 5 of 6 under Chernoff. He's often portrayed as this defensive manager due to his spell with Iran, but the truth is he's adaptable. He always trusts his players, the inventive players, to operate with a bit of freedom, a bit of responsibility and possession too. So, without the ball, Colombia are intent on winning it high, pinning their opponents back in their own half, and I think that makes a really interesting conundrum really for Chile coming into this game. But I think, truth be told, over 90 minutes, Colombia should be coming out winners in this match. So I think there's a slight bit of value there in Colombia, but it should be a good one, this one.
They've been absolutely rock solid at the back under Carlos Tevez. Right, Colombia, so for you, 2.32 mark. Adam Chernoff on this one. You resided many years in Colombia. You've following them in as well on Saturday, Friday even.
I'm honestly, I'm tempted to go with the draw here. I think it's a pretty good price. I think that this is the only scoreline that really worries me in that is a 1-0 Colombia win, and I think it's probably got a decent chance of coming out. But I really kind of like the look of 0-0 or 1-1 here going into penalties. But if the draw is going to be upset by anything, it's going to be that 1-0 Colombia win.
All right. Draw for you, Adam Chernoff, 3.14. Right, final game of the weekend. Uruguay take on Peru and Salvador. Current betting, Uruguay 1.68. Seen a bit of money here today, match for Uruguay. Peru at 6.1. The draw at 3.64. Peru getting 3/4 of the goal start on the Asian handicap, and 2.25 is the total, slightly favouring the under. Mark O'Hare, I'll stay with you. I mean, we'll talk about Peru for a second. I mean, how much damage is that 5-0 loss to Brazil going to do here? I mean, psychologically, it's very hard to pick a team up after that.
Yeah, they need a complete reset after that. It was horrible to watch. Gifted Brazil that win, actually. A really wretched effort. Brazil were unlucky not to hit double figures in that game. The sort of 4-2-3-1 system that Peru play was completely dismantled. They were overwhelmed in midfield. The kind of defensive shield in front of the defence of Tapia and Yotun were totally outplayed, outfought, completely picked apart. It was very disappointing, and it was quite interesting to see Ricardo Garecha, the head coach, almost pulling the plug in the second half and saying enough is enough. He took off Paulo Guerrero, his captain, who was already on a yellow card in the tournament, to a second yellow card meant he missed the quarterfinals. Brought on defensively minded players to try and stem the bleeding. Bit of a more cautious approach the last 20 minutes or so, which I'm not sure why he didn't do that to start with, to be honest, because they had 4 points on the board, which is historically always qualified a team for the quarterfinals in the Copa America. He didn't really want to rack up a rotten goal difference, but things have to dramatically improve, I think, to have any hope in this game, because they can feel probably hard done by in that opener against Venezuela. They could and should have won that game, but Bolivia were beaten as expected. But picked apart from that. So and there are a few issues growing now. Farfan's out of the competition. There's been a lot of talk about Carrillo losing his place due to ill discipline. So suddenly this sort of stable, exciting team is looking vulnerable, and I think they're very vulnerable in this game against Uruguay, who, as we've talked about coming into the tournament, have looked probably one of the best set to have a go at Brazil in the outrights. Didn't have it all their own way against Chile in that last game, as Adam really well pointed out in that final group game. They were reeling for a while, outnumbered out wide, took a lot of time to settle. Quite concerning, really, for Uruguay backers outright as well as in the group. And, they fielded their best 11 and seemed, a little tactical shift left them looking, out of sorts, really. But, I think the issue of Uruguay is their midfield. You have the luxury of 2 world-class strikers, 2 outstanding centre-halves, but it's finding the system to suit in between. Tavares has been trying to bed in a new look approach with wingers in 2019. It worked really well against Ecuador in the opener, which, as we as we kind of anticipated, were terrible. Worked reasonably well against Japan, but obviously not against Chile. Ladera was called at half-time. De Arestas doesn't look as comfortable out wide as he does in the middle. Nandez should feature. I like him a lot. He adds a bit more energy. Vecino's out injured, but they've got Valverde and Bentancur in midfield. So, clearly they've got enough talent in midfield. It's just trying to find a system that suits them. Defensively, they're pretty sound as well when they're not getting outnumbered. But I do like Uruguay. They're only behind Brazil and across all the major performance data metrics so far in the Copa America. And I think they should win this game, really. They've won 13 of 19 since the start of 2018. We're very unfortunate to lose to France in the World Cup. People forget last summer. And they do look like they're in a better place. Peru have only won 4 of 13 since the World Cup, and there were a lot of talk coming into this competition that the 4-2-3-1 had become too predictable, too ponderous. It seems that that's quite reasonable now on the suggestion of what we've seen anyway, at least. But the only other angle I was going to look at here is the goals angle, which I'm interested to see the total goals market. Over 2 goals is 1.74, which is a touch big to me. 83% of quarter-final ties since 1993 have featured at least 2 goals, and these 2 have been involved in plenty of high-scoring games already in the competition. So, it'd be over 2 goals for me, or Uruguay minus 0.75 on the Asian handicap.
All right, Uruguay and the over for Marco here. So glad you didn't bring up Luis Suarez antics the last night, Mark, because I was exceptionally frustrated watching that. I really probably don't want to talk about it again. So thank you for that. Adam Chernoff, let's come to you with this one. I mean, look, we obviously, it's so hard to make the case for Peru after this one, but there's got to be some worries slightly about Uruguay too. I mean, that game against Japan in particular, there was just so many red flags there. Do you think maybe that was the warning sign for Uruguay? Maybe they've just put that behind them now and should be able to kick on?
Well, the market certainly thinks so. The price on Uruguay has drifted against them all 3 matches. I think it's now right back around the starting price. Monday night at about 1:30 in the morning, I was about 6 hours into my wait for these prices to hit the board. And I was sitting there hitting F5 to refresh the pages. I was dozing off. And Uruguay opened up right around 1.68, 1.7. And I was expecting lower. And when I saw that price, I turned off the computer. I said, I must be missing something. So I went back and I was working. But the market just doesn't buy into this team at all. And you remember against Ecuador in the opening match, a match that they absolutely dominated, their price moved considerably. They started around 1.6, and I believe as the match started, they're about 1.85. So Peru is a team that's been the exact opposite. Every match there's support for Peru. We've seen a bit of overreaction after the couple big results in this tournament so far. There were a couple 4-0 wins, a 5-0 and a 2-0 by Colombia. All the prices immediately following those matches went back to basically saying that this team was not as bad as we just saw, and the other team is not as good. So I think that there's a couple different market dynamics here working in favor of Peru. What we know about Peru is they like to play up the middle, and they like to get their fullbacks very high. Why I think that is concerning against Uruguay is Peru is going to dominate possession in this game, or at least have the bulk of control of it. Advíncula, who's the right back for Peru, has been playing outrageously high. And I went back and I rewatched that opening match for Peru. And Zambrano, who's the center back directly to the left of Advíncula, was basically playing right back for the majority of that match. And if you overlay the heat map, they really played that match with an extra attacker and an additional right back with no center back. They were basically playing with a 3-man back line. If that is the case against Uruguay, where Zambrano comes back and it allows that play to happen, or has that comfort level between them, is really concerning against Uruguay, who's the best counterattacking team in South America, with Cavani and Suarez and all that speed up front. So I think that tactically Peru is quite vulnerable in this match on the back line. The loss of Farfan is enormous. The experience and just how he's playing in this tournament, he was a big plus for this team that was really playing well collectively, but they weren't having those single standout performances. So losing him is a big step back. We're going to have to see the lineups and how they come out. If Gareca goes with Polo again, then that's sort of meaning a more tactical, controlling approach, favoring those wings. If he comes back with someone like Gonzalez or Flores, that's going to mean more in the middle. But I think he's sort of handcuffed between the two, because if he goes out wide and plays to the wings, I think that's going to encourage Advíncula to come up, and that's going to leave them vulnerable at the back. If he goes with Flores or someone who can target the middle of the pitch, well, he's going against two of the best center backs in South America. and Godin and Jimenez. So that's really problematic for Peru. I don't know how they necessarily attack Uruguay. Really what they like to do does not play well into Uruguay. There has been success in the past for Paulo Guerrero on the wings. He's been sort of the one guy in past matchups between these two where this back line for Uruguay has stayed the same and the coaching matchup has been the same for a couple of years now. Paulo's had some success out wide on the wings, and he actually had a really good matchup against Godin. So maybe there's success there. I've sort of talked my way out of backing Uruguay in this match. It just, the market doesn't quite feel right. I think I might be sort of overreacting. My perception might be a little bit off, but I do like the prospect of there being a number of goals scored here. I think it's going to be a little bit slower on to get going. These teams figure each other out. Uruguay took about 25 minutes to settle into Chile. Once they did, they were really comfortable in sort of their 4-2-2-2 style that they were playing. Matched up against Peru, I think it's just a matter of patience for Uruguay to wait for that one time where they bite a little bit too high and then beat them on the counter where they have so much speed and so much success. And then Peru, if they're able to find success out wide, that works out in their favor. And I think that's really the only place they can attack them. And if they can press up further, both styles sort of play into opportunities for goals. With this being a quarterfinal match, we see sort of a tighter market on the under. I think there's probably going to be value on the over, but I'm personally going to be waiting to see these lineups and see if it's Paulo or if it's Polo out wide or if they go with Flores or Gonzalez in the middle, and then also see who's starting in at center back. That'll really tell you a lot about how Peru is going to attack this game. I think we know what we're going to get from Uruguay, so it can be pretty comfortable closer to kickoff with how this one's going to play out.
All right, so wait and see approach for Adam Chernoff, but a broad consensus for goals in Salvador on Saturday night. Right, guys, before I get you out of here, I want your best bets of the weekend. This is what I wait for. Mark O'Hare, first of all to you, sir, what's the best bet for the Mark O'Hare household this weekend?
The best bet is Venezuela plus the goal in the Asian handicap against Argentina for sure.
Sweet, I love that one. Adam Chernoff.
I'll agree with that one. Let's do Venezuela as well.
Complete. The trifecta, all three of us. Fantastic. I love it. Absolutely love it. Which means, obviously, there's no chance it's going to lose now, or probably Argentina will whack 3 past them. Guys, thanks for taking the time. Very much appreciated. We will be back probably looking at the end of this week, guys, or start next week for the semi-finals. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you have not got a Matchbook account, you want to get involved in this, check out offer.matchbook.com for a £10 risk-free bet. Can't say fairer than that. Enjoy the quarterfinals.